it's really important to talk about how we feel and express that through writing, especially during this unprecedented time. And if any of you follow this page, you know that their posts are much needed. Hey there.
What's up? How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So we love your page. We love all of your inspiring posts, and everything that you write is original. So that's fantastic. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So I typed out answers to all your questions, so I'll kind of just talk off of those. So if it looks like I'm reading, I apologize for that. But um, I think that's an interesting question. You said, please tell us a little bit about yourself. But rather than, answering that in the traditional way, I'll answer it a bit differently. Not about where I'm from or what I do, for a living, where I went to college, things like that. But the way I answered it, I've always been an observer. I think, through that, I've consistently seen, a sense of a lack of fulfillment, meaning and purpose in the lives of, people older than me that I looked up to, mentors of mine, people in my family, friends, parents, things like that. And then people around my age now who, have successful careers, great jobs, et cetera, but still seem to sense a lack of fulfillment in their lives. So I think I kind of noticed that with myself, started hearing, my own inner voice and all that noise around me. And I think, I just kind of came to the realization as long as I'm trapped, worrying about what my parents think or what my friends think or what my peers think, what my university thinks, what my boss thinks, so on and so forth, I can never really truly find the answers to the questions of life that I have. And I think just having money, having fame, having whatever it is that we're conditioned to chase just didn't really seem to add up. So I kind of came to a point in my life where, I'm at now, and it's a powerful place to be, where I've just given up things that most people are chasing. And, I'm the happiest version of myself that I think I've ever been before. So that's how I
That's
would answer that.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned like fulfillment and purpose because these are like key components of our mental health, and people don't always find that easily, and people chase the wrong things. So tell me what made you want to start posting your writing? Because it's one thing to write and then to
Yeah.
be vulnerable enough to put that out there. What led you to that?
Yeah. I think, I've always kind of written in journals, and it was a good way for me to just write things off my chest and get my thoughts out on paper. But I think just introspection, I really, I believe I have a gift. I believe I have something to say, and I believe everyone does too. But I kind of felt like my life was, in a way, like a constant contradiction. Um, and it's more so like me just wanting to have a conversation with my younger self. There's so many things I want to tell that person, and I feel like a lot of what I write is me speaking to my inner child. And then also just, I want to be real. I want to show the world. I want to have a way and a method of showing the world that it's okay to be, an individual. And, if I say something, I mean it. I want the world to know that I exist, the I that I see in the mirror when I look at myself. And, it's interesting. I think if you knew me in high school or college, a lot of people probably wouldn't see me doing this. And, that's up for them to decide, how they view it. But, I think if you can fail at something you don't like doing, why not try and, succeed at something you enjoy doing? So, um, that's kind of where I'm at. And then also, I think right now and just, the world that we live in, I think, there's so much fear that we live with. I think writing and creating things is a great way to, teach people to live with more courage and, do things that are, really nothing more than just uncertain. And, we have the internet. You can literally learn how to do anything. The only thing that's truly stopping most people is just the limiting patterns that they think, and that self-doubt, that fear, the habits that they have. And, I think writing and teaching people how to do those things through writing is a great way to break those habits. So just yeah, that's my answer to that one there.
Definitely. That was a great answer. And
Yeah,
your inner child that you're referring to, that could literally be a person who's looking up to you, seeing your posts and hearing what they need to hear. And like you said, we have so much going on and so much fear, but there's also so many resources out there. So you write a lot, and then you post what you write. How does
yeah.
that help your own mental health, or what do you do to support your own mental health experiences?
Um, yeah. So I mean, I think I spent a lot of time in my youth and even recently, and I'm 26 years old now, but I think up until probably the past year and a half before that, I spent a lot of time, you know, ultimately hurting myself, trying to hurt. someone that hurt me that I grew up with that, you know, was a father to me. And, ultimately writing helped me realize that, there's a beauty in being broken. And once I started to see that, I kind of, unlocked my potential. But there are other things that come with that, right? So I think, for someone who's dealing with, struggles and aren't sure what to do, I was in that place for a while. And, I would just urge them to try not to limit what they think is possible. At times, I kind of got my own way. And, ultimately motion creates emotion. And the hardest thing to do is start moving and engaging, right? So once you start, to move and engage, you realize a couple of things. One, it's not as scary as you thought it was, to go to therapy, to talk to someone about what you're going through that you may not feel comfortable, speaking about, things like that. And then two, you actually start, enjoying what you're doing, and you enjoy the process of, learning more about yourself and becoming a better version of you. Um, I think the only thing that was scaring me for a while was just taking that first step, that first action. And, with writing, being consistent with my page, just kind of learns, and I've learned to show up every day. Um, with that, I think when you take, that next step, you realize it's not going to kill you. And that's the first step to like evolving, changing and growing and learning and becoming that best version of yourself. And I think that's like the most beautiful thing in life that you can do, putting yourself in the game, so to speak. You're giving yourself an opportunity to maybe achieve something that, yourself and others possible given, your current situation. So um, I think there's a lot of things that, I've done, everything from, talk therapy, um, consistent exercise, medication, things like that. But I've struggled throughout my life with, you know, anxiety, depression, a dissociative disorder, and that's all, a result of ultimately, traumatic experience that I endured as a child and throughout my childhood. But um, yeah, I think there's a problem in our culture too, and I wrote about this in a post on my personal Instagram page. But I think, too often, like teens with mental illness are, dismissed as teenagers, or, women as emotional, men are told to man up. And I heard that, my entire life. Um, and I think people's problems are constantly denied. And, you know, I think it's important speaking to other, young men out there. Your emotions don't make you less of a man. Honestly, I think it makes you more of a man and just more of a human. And I think, toxic masculinity, things like that, other social stigmas, prevent men and other people just from getting the necessary mental health, the health care that they need, and prevented me from finding myself for, far too long. But, if you're able to find yourself, you realize that, ultimately your competition isn't, other people. And I think that's what a lot of, people in our, young people like ourselves struggle with, especially with social media. Um, you realize that your competition isn't other people, it's yourself, right? Like your own procrastination, your own ego, the unhealthy food you're consuming, the knowledge you're neglecting, the negative behavior that you're nurturing, the fear of what other people think ultimately. So, um, I decided to just compete against that, and, whatever that is for someone else, it may be different. But I think, the happiest people I know and that I look to in my life as examples are always evaluating and improving themselves. And I think if you focus on that growth and you surround yourself with the right people who are doing similar things every day, with that in mind, along with whatever combination of, talk therapy, consistent exercise, medication if you need it, daily self reminders, things like that, you're going to be able to transform your life.
Yeah, that definitely, coming to that realization is huge. And I definitely commend you for speaking so openly about these things, but also, you combated stigma. A lot of people go through these negative misconceptions that are, prominent in our society. So when you did, realize that you needed help or go to get that help, what was it that helped you go beyond the stigma and beyond the negative, beliefs in our society?
Um, that's a good question. I think I kind of just came to a point in my life where I found who I was, and I didn't really, you know, give a shit what other people thought. I was gonna do me, and I was gonna be myself authentically 100% of the time. And you know, there's obviously in some on the other side of that, there's good and bad to it, right? But for me, like that's good. I'm doing I'm doing me. I'm living my truth. I'm speaking my truth, and that's the most like freeing feeling, right? Whether that's the same thing for someone else as it is for me. It could be entirely different, but ultimately, I think that unlocked my potential, allowed me to be more creative, um, happier, find a greater sense of fulfillment in just simple things, day to day tasks, and the journey, the process. A lot of people um, tend to want the result, but they don't want the process, right? They look at someone and be like, damn, how can I be that happy? How can I look like that? How can I be in that, line of work, in that role? And I think a lot of people, especially our age, we crave, content, but we fail to understand the context and the work that goes into it. And I think once you start to kind of fall in love with the journey of self-discovery and finding yourself, it makes your life a lot more beautiful in that sense. So, um, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a good answer.
yeah,
And it's definitely liberating to kind of let those things go and just live on your own terms. And you mentioned before how social media can be toxic or like a breeding ground for comparison, but you're
yeah,
using social media to your advantage and to help other people. So that's pretty fantastic.
yeah.
So, what would you say to someone who's struggling with writer's block or with someone who's not yet comfortable with posting their writing, but they love writing or they have a love-hate relationship with creating?
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's a good question. I think it's similar to what I would say to someone who's struggling, with being human. Um, there's two parts to this answer, but the first part, and I'll answer this like the writer's block part next. But I think it's important not to like bypass growing pains by numbing them. I think it's important to feel like I really believe, and I think we need to utilize that privilege every day. I would say like harness it, create with it, relate with it, live with it, love with it, all those things. There's so many chapters to everyone's story. Like there's so many additions and revisions that can be produced if needed. I think your job, your relationship status, what you look like, how productive you are, where you are on your path, your journey, are all things that don't really reflect your worth at all. You're worthy. I'd say keep going. Be kind to yourself along the way, and that's something that I try and do. With my writing, and I started writing a book for a while, and then I got that writer's block, and I was like, I need to separate myself from this, right? Like, this isn't healthy for me, um, because it was me kind of ruminating and reliving a lot of things that I had been through, right? And it's just, it's a similar thing, especially, if you're writing about things that are important to you, it's probably gonna, stir up some emotion inside of you, and it may be difficult to deal with and sit with and, overcome. Um, but I think for me, I just like kind of the way I explain it is like I just go away in it for a while. I feel everything. Like if I'm in a room, like I'm still here in this room, so I still feel everything. But like I kind of just go away in it in my head, and I let it pass, and then I kind of work to understand why I was feeling that way. Like I couldn't get the thoughts out, things like that. But also, um, I think just getting out, doing something like simple as going for a walk or, you know, doing things that have given you inspiration before or just a sense of like feeling alive, right? I think those things, whether that's a conversation with someone you love or, um, going out to get ice cream with your dog, that's something I do. Things like that just allow you to get out and escape like that mindset that you're stuck in, and then ultimately like reset and then find a way to put pen to paper. Um, but yeah,
That can be self-care too, taking
yeah,
a walk. Sometimes we need to like step away, even if it is cathartic to work on these things that make us express ourselves. It's kind of like when we
yeah,
force productivity so hard, it makes it more challenging.
yeah,
So when
yeah,
you experience that writer's block, like
yeah,
with your book and such, how did you get through that, or how did you manage that beyond, going out for a walk and taking breaks?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, it's another point I was going to make. And it's interesting because I like to write, I love words, but I think language is, an overrated form of communication. I think words don't really do it justice. And, I don't have a soundbite for everything I've been through, and that's okay. Some things can't be explained, some things just need to be experienced ultimately. So, I think I get out and I try and experience those things, right? That I found, like I said, inspiration from before. Getting out in nature is great. That's helped me. Going for a walk, like I said, experiencing things that you remember finding joy in as a child, whether that's, listening, you know, to a playlist, right, that you made when you were, back in middle school with your friends, or going out for a drive and looking out the window and just being like in awe of the world around you, things like that. Share a moment with yourself, share a moment with someone you love, or just share a moment with, the world around you. And I think, those things really just, tend to bring out that creativity, in people, and, um, their innovation, flourishes from that point. But um, I think once you get to that point, there's another step too. It's important to, and at times I've overcome this where I'm like, damn, I don't know if I should really say that, or, like if I should really, put this out there. But for me, like, I'm not trying to say, and I've said this before, I'm not trying to say the right thing. I'm just trying to say what I feel out of love. And I think if you do that, if you share your truth, share your own struggle, and you speak honestly, right? Like, even if your voice shakes, that's really a beginning of like a new maturity and a higher ground. It's very therapeutic to write those kind of things off your chest, and whatever that is for someone, whether that's, creating a piece of art, um, you know, having conversations like this for you, right? Bring people onto your podcast, doing that. That's therapeutic as well, because, honestly, you're just sharing a connection with me right now where we're talking about things that we both relate to, right? And, ultimately that's going to make you feel better throughout your day and make me feel better. And I think the more that people find those things in their life, whatever that is to them, that just creates more of an opportunity for them to remind themselves of, they're not alone. They're blessed to be here, and, blessed to have the opportunity to live alongside people who are just like them. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind as well.
Yeah, that authenticity is a huge piece, I think, of why you have a large following and why people, love your posts and are involved with Wavy Dreamer, because it is authentic. And even me, I see some of the posts, I'm like, this is literally what I was just thinking about.
Yeah.
So it truly resonates with people. So where can everyone find you? It's Wavy Dreamer is your handle.
Yeah.
And you're at their resource. You're so eloquent in this call talking about yourself. And I thank you again for being so open to our audience. But certainly, everybody go check out this page, follow them. And anything else you want to leave with our audience before we close up?
Um, I'll say one thing, and it's something I wrote. I think, some of the kindest souls that, have lived in this world, they've lived in a world that's not so kind to them. So if you're one of those people, some of the best human beings I know, right? They've been through so much at the hand of other people. They still love deeply. They still care, especially in a world like this. We've seen what went on, a month ago with the election and things like that, and how divided we were, as human beings, right? Sometimes it's the people who've been hurt the most who refuse to be, hardened by the world. And, it's because they'd never want to make another person, feel the same way that they felt, right? And I think that's something to definitely be in all of. And, I think if you're that person, if you hear this, first of all, thank you. And second of all, just get out there, create with that and relate with it. And, um, just build like beautiful connections with people based off of that foundation. I think, um, that's what I try to do. So,
It's contagious. It's
yeah,
spreading, a positive message. And I think that everything you shared today was so real and relatable for a lot of us. So thank you again for being here. Everybody, check out Wavy Dreamer. And yeah, we look forward to reposting you guys and staying in touch.
thank you. I appreciate it. Have a good day, a good
You
weekend.
too. Thanks.
Bye.